Welcome to Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton, where we equip pastors to take their churches from declining to thriving by pointing them to a new future and a new hope. Join us weekly for encouragement and practical advice in your pastoring journey. So we are back with what has turned out to be an ongoing series.
It's a mini series.
And boy, the critics are raving about it.
They are. So the first one. Hi, I'm Mark.
Yeah, wait. This is Revitalize and Replant with Mark.
I get ahead of the game here.
And there's Mark Hallock sitting over there.
Guys.
I'm Dan Hurst, and we've been talking about how do you know when you're ready for revitalization? How do you get into revitalization? And last one we talked about how to begin preparing for revitalization, and we want to follow up with that on that preparing for revitalization, because not only do you have to prepare yourself or get prepared, but also your people. You have to prepare them. It's not like they're like, okay, you come in and do it. They're really part of that whole process. So let's kind of follow up with that. Last time we talked about accepting the reality of that it's going to take some time, to get through this process. And then we talked about getting your family on board, and not only your family, your spouse and your children together, and moving in that direction. Now today we want to pick up with a little bit more focus on the church itself and the church people. And let's talk about how do you really discover where your people are, and then after you've discovered where they are, how do you get them to move in the direction of where they need to be? What's that process that you have to take them through?
Well, I have a lot of experience in my life at fitness gyms. I'm sorry, that was not a joke.
Hey,
yeah, it was.
No, I believe it.
It was not a joke.
It was a joke.
It was not a joke.
It was funny.
I have a lot of experience.
What's the name of your gym right now?
The last one I was a part of, I think, was maybe Planet Fitness.
Planet Fitness, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. No judgment zone.
No judgment zone.
Yeah.
No, the reason I have a lot of experience is that I start them a lot and then I don't follow through. So it's probably been 4 or 5 times I've said, all right, I'm going to join a gym. And
You've
You're
been a
fired
member
up.
of a lot of gyms.
I've joined a gym, but then, I quit going. I quit going.
Fades.
Also, I have a really nice elliptical machine in my family room that does a really good job of holding my hats. I hang my hats on it, that kind of thing. So here's what I'm saying, though. Every time I've joined a gym, and I've joined a lot of them, I've just never stayed with them. Like some church members I know, by the way.
Exactly, right.
Come to think of it,
Truth,
there's a story there somewhere. No, in all seriousness, man, I struggle with this, and so I have. I'm going to join a gym, so I'll go and join a gym. The first thing that usually happens when you join a gym is that some well-meaning person who works at that gym spends some time with me, and they say things like, "What are your goals?
Yeah.
What have you done in the past? What has worked for you? How much time do you have to commit to this? Do you have anything, is there any part of your body, because it looks like it's pretty weak, any part of your body we need to take special care of?" It's like every time I go to the airport, it's like, do you have any metal parts in you? Why do you ask me that? Do I look like I have metal parts? Okay, my point in all that is, before they give me a plan of where to go, they have to find out where I've been and what my goals are and something about me. And I think sometimes we show up at a church to revitalize and we don't spend time getting to know who the people are, what their gospel stories are, what their church history has been, what their strengths have been, their weaknesses have been, what they expect out of this. So I think you kind of begin with that like a coach would. Just sit down and talk with you. How can I help you get to where you need to be? What have you done in the past? What's worked? What hasn't worked? Why hasn't it worked? Mm-hmm. Those kinds of things. So I think that's one place to start in long-term revitalization. Just take some time and visit with all your church members, and even if you have to make some mental notes and then put those in your phone or your iPad and have notes of people so you kind of know where they are. Mm-hmm. I think that's then that young man who means so well develops this really cool plan for me for the gym that I follow diligently for maybe a week and a half, and then I ghost him and never come back. And so that happens to you too as a pastor sometimes.
That's true.
And we got to be willing to do that. All right.
There's a lot of connections here. There might be.
I know. Yeah. That's true.
No, that's really good, though. I think what you're saying is ask good questions and listen carefully. Mm-hmm. Don't just assume you know what they need and what the problem is.
Boy, that's you say that again.
Don't just assume you know what they need and what their problem is. You don't know. I mean, you can make some guesses, but you come in humbly and you ask a lot of questions. Yeah. and you listen well, and you encourage where you can. But you've got to start there. Otherwise, you may lead them in the wrong direction in your attempts to revitalize them.
And I think when you start asking those questions and really probing, there's a sense on their part like, wow, somebody cares, but at the same time, maybe we are getting somewhere. Because when I start asking people in transitional pastorates, that sort of thing, like where did you fail and why? As a church, where did the failure happen and why did it happen? That's the only way I can find out where they really are, because their perception of failure is often very different from a biblical perception of failure. So I need to know those things so I'll know how to teach them to move in that direction.
So the title is How to Prepare for Long-Term Church Revitalization. You begin to get to know the members, listen to them, find out their stories, not just so you can know their stories, but so that you can help them plug into the revitalization so that they have ownership in it.
Yes, that's right.
You don't want them just sitting back and watching you do it.
No, that's right.
Because they'll just let you try, and if you fail, well, another pastor failed. You want them to have skin in the game. You want them to be on board.
That's right.
And you can't get them on board if you don't know about them and what they need in order to get on board.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like this. In church planting, we talk about building a core team, right?
Right.
So we're building a core team of folks who are going to help you plant this church. And they've got unique gifts and unique ways that you're going to utilize them. Your core team is whoever's at that church.
I know. And as a church planter, and you and I have both been church planters. And so is Dan. The cool thing about the church planter is they say you get to decide who's on the bus.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
So right. But in a replant, you get on the bus and they are already there.
That's right. That's who they are.
That's who they are. And you can't.
That's right.
And you're not going to be kicking them off. You don't want to do that.
And you can't complain about it. And this is why this is the leadership challenge. That again is a great opportunity for the Lord to show His strength in weakness. But I use the analogy sometimes, because I'll talk with guys like, man, we just don't have any leaders. I mean, it's like, I don't know how we're going to do this. And it's like, well, first of all, the Lord loves to show His strength and weakness. But two, it's true. It's kind of like you've become the manager of the Colorado Rockies, okay? And let's be honest. They don't have a lot of talent. They're at the bottom of the pack every year. Mm-hmm. Somehow, by the grace of God, you've got to win that division this year. And that's what you've got. So how are you going to inspire, encourage, coach? What do you need to do? Otherwise, you can just complain all day and just sit around and do nothing. Mm-hmm. And the Lord is with you, and this is His church, and these are His people. And so I think in some ways, that's how you have to approach it, which means I treasure these people, I love these people, I shepherd these people, but I also got to coach these people. Yeah. I gotta help move them out of the stands and into the game, help them see that they have been gifted by God. I don't care if your whole church the average age is 80 years old.
Right.
Those are God's people, man.
Right.
They've got gifts. They can pray. They can do, you know what I mean? And so this is that aspect of revitalization, replanting.
But you can't coach them until they trust you.
Well, that's exactly right.
And they're not going to trust you until they find out that you really do want to know and you really do want to make a difference.
That you care. That we're in this together.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. In a church plant, sometimes they'll simply follow your vision.
Yeah.
Because the fact that they want to be part of a church plant indicates that they're people who want to follow vision. Yeah. That excites them, that enthuses them, whatever the word is. And so many times in a church plant, in the early stages, they will just follow you because you've got vision. They're looking for vision. In a revitalization, they will only follow your vision to the degree they trust you as a shepherd.
Yes, that's right.
If they don't trust you as a shepherd, they will not follow any vision you put out there.
Yep.
And so you have to earn that trust, and that's why we say in the previous podcast, it will take a long time.
Yeah.
And for some who are wounded sheep, it takes even longer.
Right, that's it.
Because they've done this before and been burned, and it's just going to take a lot longer, and you're going to have a lot longer on-ramp for this to happen.
Yeah.
So.
There's another part of it, too. Learning to trust you is you're going to make stupid mistakes.
Yeah.
And that becomes a little bit of a setback, and you just might as well face the fact that you're not going to be Mr. Perfect. You're going to make mistakes along the way. Be honest with them. Say, this is a learning process.
A long time ago, 86, something like that. I was the first year I was working at the old Home Mission Board in Atlanta, and I was one of the youngest people at the board. Back in those days, they didn't hire 25-year-olds. Now they're all 25 but me. But back then, so I was one of the youngest. And and all these other guys were twice my age, and I was trying to live in their world. I bought a briefcase for the first time because everybody carried a briefcase back then.
I would love it.
You
I'd
didn't
love
carry
to
a
see that.
backpack. Carried a briefcase. And I went to this really cheap place where you could buy 3 suits for $100. Seriously. And I bought 3 suits for $100 so I could wear suits.
So you were wearing a suit.
You had to wear a suit every day to the
and
whole
a-
mission
and
board.
a briefcase.
Yeah, briefcase.
Every day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a different day.
Yeah. It was like what was that movie Wall Street, Greed is Good, 1980s.
Oh,
I
that's
looked
right.
like that.
Yeah,
So anyway,
yeah, money.
Money, whatever. So anyway, but I remember I was in a meeting sometime, with everybody, and I think I was supposed to do a part of a report on some kind of national strategy, something, and I just forgotten it. I just didn't do it. I kind of like high school. I hadn't really done it, and so when it came time for me to present that, all of a sudden I realized, oh my goodness, that was due today, and so I sort of mumbled around and said, I meant to do that, and I did a lot of this hem-hawing and tried to basically say I was traveling. I didn't get back as early as I thought I would. I was planning on doing that last night, but I didn't get back, and I haven't had a chance to do that. And I remember I got done with that, and this wonderful guy named David Benham, and some of you listening to this know who he is, and he worked at the old Home Mission Board, and he buzzed me on my phone. He said, hey, come down here to my office. I want to talk to you for a minute. And he was a good friend. He wasn't a boss or a supervisor, so I didn't think anything about it. I went down, and he said, I want to give you – he said, you're bright, you're gifted. I think you got a great future in denominational life. Let me give you the most helpful advice you'll ever hear. And he said, if you do this, you'll be amazed how far this will take you. He said, when you do something wrong, simply say, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. That shouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Own it.
Yep.
Own it.
Don't make excuses for it. Don't
Yep.
try to act like maybe it wasn't totally your fault or it was out of your control. Just simply say, yeah, I did not get that done, and I should have, and I apologize.
Yeah.
And that has served me very well in pastoring. People respect when you say, Gary, I overpromised.
Yeah.
I know I told you I could do that, but it turns out I can't, and that's my fault. I overpromised. It's a problem I have, overpromising. I'm trying to work on it, but I apologize for overpromising and not being able to come through with that commitment. Just being straightforward like that is so
I love
important.
that. That's so true.
Now, let me give you that picture from a corporate standpoint.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the corporate world.
Right.
And I can tell you right now that in my business, and this happens to me because I screw up, and I just did yesterday. It was so. This is fresh on my mind, and I just told the client, "Wow, I completely spaced that. I messed up. I'm sorry. I apologize." And there was this long silence, and this lady said, "Nobody's ever said that before."
Wow. Nobody's ever apologized.
Yeah. She said, nobody's ever said that before. And I thought maybe she was joking.
Yeah.
And she wasn't.
She's dead serious.
She was dead serious about it. So your people, when you are that transparent and honest with them, it makes an impact on their
Yeah,
life.
for sure.
Absolutely.
That's
All
a
right.
fruit of the Spirit, by the way.
It is.
It
shows humility.
shows humility.
And it shows that you're learning, and they can identify with you in your failure.
Yep.
And it helps them know how to embrace that and how to improve it and make it. You're modeling that for them.
That's exactly right.
All right.
Well, as we continue on this, talking about planning for long-term revitalization, we've talked about how to discover where your people are and getting them to where they need to be. That takes us to our next point, which is, you are going to fail, as we've just said, and you're just going to have to learn to be content with 3 steps forward and 2 steps backwards. And sometimes it's the other way around.
Boy, that's true. That's so true.
I know, which goes back to, again, one of the challenges of the church growth movement. It doesn't really provide for 2 steps backward.
Yeah.
In other words, it's only about 3 steps forward or 1 step forward. It doesn't really help us with the 2 steps backwards.
Yeah.
If the 2 steps backwards comes, something's wrong, we got to rethink everything. No, maybe not.
Yeah.
It's just a challenge right now, and this is a long haul. And again, Dr. Rayner helped me with this so much. Even churches that grow, it's not like a escalator. It's a zigzag.
Yeah.
A few years up and then down, then a few years up and then down.
True.
Every church does that.
Yeah.
And again, you don't live and die on, hey, we're growing now. We're not growing now. And you're going to have some steps forward. You're going to have some people that come and be involved, and things are going away, and you're going to have some people that leave. And you're going to have maybe some, take it from me, you're one text away from everything in your church changing instantly.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay?
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
One text.
One text.
And I don't mean you make it, and I mean you getting a text from
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
that tells you something that changes everything in your church.
Yep.
That happens to all of us.
Yeah.
And you're not taking 2 steps back, you're taking 10 steps
Yeah,
back.
that's right.
And it's like, wait, we're back. This is worse than when I got here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, could be. Could be. That's the nature of where we are, and we just keep working toward it, and just understand. A lot of times they say that depression, among other things, is when reality doesn't meet your expectations. Well, if we're always expecting that we're going to keep moving one step forward all the time, numerically, and that kind of thing, we should be moving forward in our edification
Sure. Yeah.
of Christ and being like Him. But I'm talking about numerically and the strength of the church. We need to realize that that's not always going to be the case.
Yeah.
And it may never totally be the case in your ministry. You may be taking all these steps backward so that the next guy who comes is the one that takes all the step forward. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because that may be what
That
God
might
has
be
in
God's
store
design.
for you.
This is why this, and I hope everybody listening, this is so true. This is why it's so important that what drives you in your leadership is conviction, not pragmatism. Pragmatism is whatever works, let's do it. And when you take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, you're going to be jumping from pragmatic strategy to pragmatic strategy. What keeps you rooted and going through the ups and downs is conviction. The word is still the word. Jesus is still Jesus. The gospel is still the gospel. God is still sovereign. We're still called to love people. We're still called to preach. We're still called to pray like crazy. And we're going to stay steady with the things God has revealed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if you don't stick with convictions, this is where if you are not a convictional leader, Al Mohler, by the way, wrote a great book called The Conviction to Lead. And that's what this whole thing's about. I just don't know how you're going to be able to persevere through the ups and downs of ministry because you'll be too focused on what people want and what people think than what God wants and what honors the Lord.
I'm grateful that the Lord has allowed me to live long enough and be in ministry long enough to be able to have a sense of perspective that I would not have had when I was 30 or 35 or certainly in my 20s. I'm able now, in recent ministry, to see some things that have been more 3 steps backward than 2 steps forward. Okay,
Yeah.
There's been some losses that I've experienced in ministry, and in the past, that would have really sort of knocked me off kilter a little bit. But I was talking with my wife about this the other night, and the 3 steps backward that we've experienced in some things. It's like, you know what? There's been 3 steps backwards, but this couple that we worked with those 3 years, they've made some huge growth in their life, and they're never going to be the same. And this guy, that we've been able to work with in the last 3 years, we've seen God do some things in his life that seem impossible, but it has. So, yeah, numerically wise and otherwise, maybe 3 or 4 steps backwards. But when you look at individual things that God, it's like God sort of pulls back the curtain of heaven and goes, there's stuff going on here you can't really see right now.
Yes.
But you get to heaven, you're going to see none of this work was wasted.
Right.
That's exactly
And when you
right.
get older, hopefully you learn that, and you're not nearly as caught up in, are we growing bigger? Are we not? Are we gaining people? Are we losing people?
Yep.
It's what are we doing with the ones who are there?
Yeah, that's
And
so
what is
good.
God doing with them?
Yeah, and realizing that God gives us opportunities for failure.
He does.
It's sometimes what we consider to be failure is actually God just moving us into a place where we can grow.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah. I know.
And I liken it to, I like to play the stock market. It's dumb, but my son and I, we're just, we're buddies in this sort of thing. And it's more of a game than it is to anything. But one of the things that I've learned is that when you take 3 steps backwards in the stock market, that's the time to invest for the future. And the same thing is true in ministry. When you take those 3 steps backwards, don't just wait around for something to happen. How do you invest in the future at this point? How do we learn from this?
That's right.
And then move on so that we can take 2, 3, 4 steps, to the future.
I got to share one thing real quick, and you got me thinking, just because it's fresh. So I flew into Kansas City last night, and I'm getting ready to land about 10 minutes out, and this message pops up from a kid who was in my youth group 20 years ago.
Wow.
I haven't heard a thing from him. And he reaches out, and here's what I remember. His parents went through a really difficult divorce, and he got on drugs in high school. Now, he had been really involved in our youth group. But it was one of those things that always ate at me because he got on drugs, and then basically I lost contact with him, and then I left that church to go to a different church. And he sends me this message last night, basically just saying, "Hey, I finally found your number. You just need to know those were some of the best years of my life in that youth group.
Wow.
And God changed my life. And I never got a chance to tell you that. But I've gone through some battles with mental illness and addiction, but I'm following the Lord again. And I just had to reach out to you." Now, listen, that's not to praise me. That's to say what we can forget is sometimes it can look really bleak.
Yep.
When I left that ministry, I remember that and just feeling awful, like a failure. Like, honestly, like, Lord, man, some youth pastor I am. You know what I mean? And little did I never thinking I'd ever hear it again. And 20 years later, here's what we got to remember. The Lord redeems broken things.
He always does.
He's sovereign. And what may feel like 10 steps back sometimes, like what you said, is just setting things up for God to show his glory and take a bunch of steps forward. And anyway, I just wanted to share that because that's the long haul nature of ministry, you know. And now we're going to get together for coffee, and I can't wait to encourage him
awesome.
and love the heck out of that kid.
Which brings us to our final point.
Yeah, which is true. Go for it.
Our final point, and we've talked about this many times, but it bears saying again without dwelling too much on it because we're about out of time. And the third thing is be content and celebrate the small victories.
And that's kind of what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Even though I took 2 or 3 steps back, there were victories even in that retreat.
Yep, that's
exactly.
right.
And you celebrate those victories.
Find those victories in the failure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Because they are there.
Yeah.
Always. And celebrate those. And even celebrate small victories in your church. And don't always look for the big flashy things. But God's at work in all the places, all the small places. And he loves to do things in small places.
I
And
love
celebrate
it.
that.
Dude, here's the truth. There's no such thing as a small victory.
No.
In the kingdom of God, every victory is a huge victory.
Well, good point.
Because it's God at work. Every conversation, every prayer, every little nudge, man, that's supernatural. And so we've got to draw those things out, though. Where's God moving? Let's celebrate him, what he's doing.
So I hope you've enjoyed these 3 most recent episodes. You can listen to them all 3 in a row. They're about 20 minutes apiece, so that's about an hour.
Yeah. Actually, I think 4 episodes.
4 episodes,
so
that's
an
right.
hour and
Yeah.
20.
Yep.
I was thinking the other day, we've been on now for just over a year, and so we do approximately 10 episodes a week, so 10 episodes a month, rather. So we do about 20 minutes per episode. So that's 200 minutes a month, right? And if you look at the last 12 months, that's 2,400 minutes, right? And if we divide that by 60, that's 40 hours. So I would suggest what you do is take a week off, and from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, do nothing but listen to Revitalize.
We're going to burn them out in a day.
And what you'll discover is 3 things. You'll discover some new insight. You'll discover how winsome and funny we are. And you'll discover how often we repeat ourselves and say the very same thing in every podcast.
Thank you all so much. And Mark is right. We're going into our 2nd year now, and we consider you to be the reason that we're able to do this. So thank you so much for your faithfulness. By the way, thank you for praying for us. We know some of you pray for us because we're in a ministry too, and what we're doing here, and connecting and giving a message of hope, I hope. Yeah. So thank you to North American Mission Board for your support. Thanks to, again, to Midwestern Seminary for allowing us to use the Spurgeon Library podcast studio. And thank you once again for being a part of our life.
Thanks for joining us today on Revitalize and Replant. This podcast is brought to you by the North American Mission Board, where we help dying or struggling churches regain health for the glory of God and the good of their communities. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. To learn more about becoming a replanting pastor or to explore resources about revitalization for your own church, visit churchreplanters.com.